Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.
You're listening to Radio Merced. I'm Jacque MacDonald, and welcome to The Victim's Voice. And today we have one of my favorite people, Sergeant Scott Skinner from the Merced Police Department. And thank you, Sergeant.
Oh, no problem, Jackie. Anytime to come down here and speak on your show.
Is it the chocolate bar I give you, or is it just a little humor?
Well,
because
that's
it's
part
Christmas.
of it, you know. So, and then I always use that to motivate my people that work for me. You know, I give it out. So
I know you do, but we do. We were speaking before this program, and we did want to send our. Just mention Connecticut.
Yeah, our prayers out to the victims of the tragic incident that happened in Newtown, Connecticut.
Yeah. Because everybody, cops, firemen, everybody, we're all human beings.
You know what? It affects a lot of people, and I think, you know, where people do forget is the law enforcement side of it, the first responders that, you know, fortunately, during my 24-year career here, I have never had to go into a scene like that one, you know, and we've had a couple major instances in Merced City and Merced County where several kids, you know, family members have been killed at one time, and you know, you just you think you're prepared for that, but I don't think you could ever be prepared for that. So, you know, responding into a school like that, you know, I'm sure all those officers responding there had children of their own that either at one time had gone through that school or were getting ready to go to that school. So it has a major effect on everybody.
Yeah. And it makes you also think about Officer Gray. They have breakfast with their family that morning, and then somebody took his life for no reason whatsoever. Yeah,
that's true. You know, that will always be on, you know, a lot of the officers' mind at our department who are around, you know, during that time when it happened.
Yeah. But now to Christmas safety.
Yeah, something a little more cheerful here, you know, and you know we're doing it at the right time here, you know, to bring this back up. We've talked about it before. You know, I'm sure the PIO for the Sheriff's Department, our department, we're always trying to warn the public out there during this Christmas season, you know, almost any season, you know, but the holiday season, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's is coming up. So, you know, just need to be extra careful out there.
Why is it Christmas either brings out the best in you or the worst in you?
Well, I mean, it's really a theft is a crime of opportunity. Yes. You know, and now the opportunity is heightened with everybody out there Christmas shopping. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people will do some shopping, put the merchandise in the car, maybe definitely go to another store and not thinking about it. And, you know, all it takes is a split second for an individual or individuals, you know, to make you a victim.
And I know that your department and the sheriff, all the departments, you all collect toys, don't you, for children?
Yeah. There's the toys for the kids' toy drive. Yeah. You know, even though that you said it's, you know, the sheriff's department or said police department, but we all work together, you know, towards the same goal of, you know, hopefully getting a gift out there for every, you know, kid in the city of Merced that are unfortunate, you know.
And there's no shame in being unfortunate.
No, it can happen to anybody.
And with what they pay people per hour, who can afford anything?
And with this economy, you know, a lot of jobs are lost, you know, have been lost for the past year or more. You know, so a helping hand always, you know, helps out.
So now it's your turn to speak.
Well, you know, like I said, you know, the mall, you go by the mall every night. You know, we used to be able to have extra patrol during the holiday seasons out there, but because of the budget, you know, through the city of Merced and us losing manpower, we can no longer. We used to have an equestrian unit that would go out there and work the holiday seasons there. But you know, even though we don't have that, the officers are, you know, told on a regular basis, you know, in your spare time, you know, between calls, you know, driving through there. Fortunately, this is a season a lot of times for shoplifters, so, you know, even though the car's there on official business for something else, it still can deter crime from somebody else, you know, breaking into the cars. You know, but one thing to remember, if you are shopping at night, you know, I would try to park in a well-lit area. park next to the store that you're going to. Look at your surroundings. See if there's anybody loitering in the area.
Isn't it terrible that now we have to be afraid to go out when it's too dark? And years ago when I first came here, the big joy was going to Gottschalk's when it was dusk and it was so nice, and the lights and the trees. And
yeah, I mean, Merced has slowly grown over the years, and unfortunately the larger in population we have become, the more crimes also seem to come with it.
Have you noticed too, there's so many more homeless people begging?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we try to, get them to leave the area like that, and because a lot of those too, I just read an article, I think it was in the Modesto Bee, some of those are scams themselves.
Oh.
I saw an article where this female, I think a couple people were arrested, they were asking donations for a funeral, when in all actuality it was just a scam.
Oh yeah, you see them, and if they have a picture of a child, I want to stop and say, what happened?
Well, they know that somebody like you, that's all I need is a couple people to donate money and throw a picture of a child up on the cardboard box or the paper that they're holding, and you'll get somebody to donate towards that.
Because you know how much.
And I'm not saying everyone that's doing that is,
not.
is bad either. Is doing it for the wrong intentions.
Yeah. And I often wonder if the person had been killed, because that's when victim witness comes into play.
Right. Victim witness on any homicide case or something like that where the life has been taken, they will step in to assist. Now they will assist if the victim had nothing to do that led up to the cause of his death. Meaning if there was a fight and he died because of the result of the fight, then, he's partially to blame for that. So they will not step in on something like that.
No, I know there's limits.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still reward money too, isn't there, I believe, from the governor? Yes.
On certain cases, we have obtained reward money, but you have to make sure that to get that you have exhausted all possible leads, and that hopefully by getting the reward money, it will generate more interest, to the public.
And now you're speaking about scams. We got a note from my husband's nephew. He works in LA, and it said that as of the end of this month, I guess, cell phone numbers are going to be anybody. Telemarketers can get them.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm sure,
I have the number at home if you want it.
they have your home phone number always, so I'm sure they will get to that.
Yeah, this is the cell, and you have to call on the cell that you use, and you can have your name taken off for 5 years.
Oh, yeah, I've seen advertisements for that too.
Oh, you have. Okay.
So, but getting back to like we were talking about the safety, always look at your surroundings. If you're out there at night, park in a well-lit area. If at all possible, go shopping with a friend. So there's two of you at least, and not just one. I would park near or as closest to the store that you're going to do your shopping in. If you are, say, leaving the mall and going to Walmart, and if it's not that much of inconvenience for you, what's to say you can't drop those gifts off at home, so where they'll be safe, or at least know for the time being that they are safe, and not just in the back seat of your car exposed to somebody who's looking for it.
Now, what about people following you if they see you've got a lot of presents and they follow your car?
Actually, if you're in your car leaving and you think they're following you, I would say if you think somebody is actually following you, I don't want to advocate talking on a cell phone while you're driving.
No,
but if you don't think you're in immediate danger at that time, then I would drive to maybe a public place, where there's a lot of people, maybe like a gas station or anything, or drive towards, the police department or sheriff's department there on West 22nd Street, and if all be, just park right in front, and see if that person is going to continue following you. A lot of times they just might drive off. Then I would at least not drive off yourself, I would just contact somebody from either department saying, hey, this is what happened, so we're aware of it.
If there was one piece of information you would give people for safety, what would it be?
You know, if you're talking about, you know, especially during the holiday season here, the gifts in the car, if you're going to put your gifts in the car, you know, the first thing I would do is I put them in the trunk. I would not leave them open view for somebody to walk by your car to look into it. If you are going to put them in the car, you know, I would try to conceal them some way, maybe on the floorboard, so it's not as easy for somebody to see when they're walking by. If you're talking about actually being a victim, where somebody is going to come up and rob you of the items there, your life is more important than these gifts. I would give the gifts up. I would try to become the best witness as possible. Try to pick out something on the individual that committed this crime that stands out. You know, whether it be a hair, tattoos. You know, tattoos are very distinguishing marks.
Yes.
You know, so, and then report it immediately, you know, to the authorities.
Yeah. And I have to say, even though there's a shortage of police officers, you always respond quickly.
Yeah,
I know that from my neighbor down the street.
You know, I'm sure, you know, it depends. You know, now you have to realize there with, you know, the night shift, on an average, there's only 8 officers out there. Each shift is scheduled right now for, I think, 10 officers. But that doesn't account for officers who might be out on job injury, sick leave, or taking vacation, or just a day off. So on average, there's 8 officers out there a night. Calls come in as priority calls, you know. So and I know anytime somebody calls in, they always think, well, their call is the priority call. You know, but that's where our dispatchers play a major role in the communications here, deciphering which ones the officers need to go first. Now, if, excuse me, you come home and your dog has been stolen out, say your dogs have been stolen out of your backyard, I know you would be screaming for an officer to get there. But in reality, it would probably be an hour before an officer, depending on what they're doing. If they're all caught up in the calls, then yes, they'll be right there. They'll be there immediately. But if there's another call, you say like a suspicious car driving around, they will go handle that call first before they come take the report on the dogs that have been stolen.
We have a big lock on our gate. People need to put a lock on the gate.
Yeah, I would try to do, you know, if you're talking, you know, the thefts in the home, trying to prevent burglaries. We do have, you know, a rash of burglaries that are going on in, you know, I would say all over, but we do have a lot in the North Merced area right now. Our property detectives arrested a couple individuals. This isn't their first go around. I mean, they've been arrested several times before for residential burglary. A lot of it when they were juveniles, but now they're adults, so, you know, hopefully they will spend more time, you know, locked up over it. But do anything that you can. Yeah, I mean, you have a gate that leads in the backyard. You say you have a big padlock on it.
And cameras. Do that. And a camera.
You know, you can put cameras up there. You can put dummy cameras up there. It just depends how far or how much money you want to spend. You know, but you know, anything to deter these individuals from not, you know, breaking in there. Like I said, a camera system is outstanding. But putting one up there that looks like a camera system, maybe an old one that really doesn't work, you know, if that catches their eye, they'll think twice about it. You know, putting signs up. This home is protected by such and such alarm company, or, you know, they're always beware of the dogs. You know, attack dogs in the backyard. Motion sensor lights around the house. And then I don't want to say put bars on the window. I don't think we've gotten that part, but there's always, you could put like little wooden blocks inside the window to prevent it from opening all the way.
Now, suppose you're a single woman or an elderly person. Would a police officer be able to come and tell you what to do for safety in your home?
Yeah, you know, all you would have to do is, you know, call down the police department. I do not call on the emergency line because that's a non-emergency, but you can call our business line, which is 385-6912. Excuse me. And they can connect you with a person who can provide you help, that information. That's part of our job is to protect and serve.
Yeah.
And that's the service part of it, Now, again, you call in, and that's what you want is some tips on how to prevent this. They're not going to be there right away, but sometime throughout the shift, somebody, will be able to stop by.
And how about Neighborhood Watch?
Neighborhood Watch is a good thing. Lieutenant, I believe, Matthews now, we've had some realignment within our department, some of the responsibilities, but I think that falls under Lieutenant Matthews now at our department. Because then now what you have done is instead of just one person looking out, you have a whole neighborhood looking out for each other.
Yeah. Now, I've noticed, I'm not saying where I live, but where we live, that so many people have cameras, but you still see them leaving their garage doors open a few inches.
Yeah, it's, they might have animals or something that they like to come in and out of there. I could see that during the summertime because of the heat, let the air circulate through. But yeah, you really should, take every precaution necessary, and that would meaning even closing the garage door all the way.
And so what is the most important thing you want to leave people with?
I would say if you are driving around, you're going shopping or something like that, and you pull in a parking lot and you see somebody who you think is suspicious, if you're going home in your neighborhood, you see somebody who you think is suspicious, your gut feelings are usually right. So I would call the police department. Again, that wouldn't be that'd be a non-emergency call, would not be an emergency call, but you can always call and they will send an officer out there, and hopefully that individual is still there by the time the officer gets there. They can make contact with him, find out who he is, what he's doing in the neighborhood. You never know. Sometimes those people are the ones that are helping solving our crime because they're out there, walking around.
So, stupid question, but I have to ask you, being a woman, suppose you saw somebody you thought was suspicious going to your front door and trying to open it, and you were there, and you carry a very large, heavy handbag, and you let them have it. Can you get into trouble? You're laughing, but women do that. Have you held your wife's handbag?
No. If you think you need to protect yourself, I will say protect yourself by all means. And that is, it's funny that you bring that up, but that is a way these individuals are determining if individuals are home before they break in. They will send somebody to the door, knock on the door, ring the doorbell. If they get no answer, then somebody in that group will then go to the backyard, double check, make the entry through the backyard, while these people are still standing outside. Now they're the lookouts, to let them know if anybody's coming around. So
carry a big stick and a heavy bag. I'm sorry, Sergeant. And we still have a couple of minutes, don't we, Steve? Yeah.
Well, we're cruising right along here.
Yes, aren't we?
Yeah.
So the last 2 minutes are yours.
Totally mine, huh?
Yes, totally. But this is really important. I know we're laughing. And because it's Christmas, but this is really serious.
Yeah,
this is serious.
Time to be time to be joyful, and we're bringing in the new year. This will be off the beaten path a little bit, but I know with the holiday season, people like to go out and celebrate. There's nothing wrong in tipping a few back, but just get yourself a designated driver.
Yes.
Be responsible about it. Call a taxi. If you don't have a driver, call a taxi.
Now, and for New Year, people have a habit of shooting in the air, but they forget the bullet
what
that
goes up
up.
always comes down. We've been fortunate over the years. That happens all the time. If you go out there right, 2 minutes before midnight, and as soon as it strikes 12 or somewhere around there, you'll start hearing the gunfire. And it really does sound like, in certain areas of town, it sounds like a war zone. The officers do it the best. I know we usually make a couple guns arrests during that time of year. But it's really the stupidity of these individuals firing the gun up in the air. I know it's celebrating the new year, but you know, you hit it right on the nose. What goes up must come down.
Yeah, and it might come down on them if they're not careful.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you, Sergeant, and we just hope we all have a safe and happy Christmas in Merced. This is such a nice little town, isn't it? Or it was.
Yeah, no,
and it's our town.
Overall, it still is.
Yeah.
You know.
So thank you for all you do, and may you all be safe. Thank you for listening. And as a former victim, may you never walk in our footsteps.
Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.
You're listening to Radio Merced. I'm Jacque MacDonald, and welcome to The Victim's Voice. And today we have Sergeant Scott Skinner from the Homicide Division and everywhere else in Merced. And welcome, Sergeant.
Oh, again, Jackie, thanks for letting us come on your show again.
Yeah.
You know, it's always a pleasure. You know, and I also want to thank Steve and KYOS for doing this program.
Oh, I just give Steve a candy bar and he behaves himself. He's laughing. So if you're listening, people, he loves chocolate with nuts.
That must mean I've been on the show quite a bit. Unfortunately, I've gained a few pounds here and there.
You're very generous with your chocolate, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I try to share it, you know. So
bite for you, a bite for you.
I try to share it with my fellow coworkers, you know.
Yeah. And sadly, even though this is the holiday season, there are still unsolved murders. There are still murders happening, and there's so much sadness.
Yeah, you know, and we were talking about this. You know, unfortunately, I don't know if we jinxed ourselves, but you know, around the end of November, you know, we were kind of gearing up because we hadn't had one for, you know, a while, which was good. But December always, for some reason, seems to be a month where, you know, we do have a homicide or two. Some of those are contributed to domestic violence.
Yes.
You know, for some reason during this time of year, it's hard for individuals. And then some of them are just related to our gang violence.
And alcohol, a lot of times.
Yeah,
too.
alcohol. I would, if you go back and look at it, I think alcohol has a play in a lot of our major crimes. You know, our major assaults, our homicides, and aggravated assaults. Whether, you know, they were drinking sometime throughout the day, leading up to this. You know, and that's all parties involved. You know, suspects, victims, and unfortunately witnesses, which makes it hard.
Of course it does. But I believe you have, are they new murders that you want to profile?
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, December 1st, we had our 8th homicide of the year. Unfortunately, with this one here, it was a double homicide where 2 individuals were killed. The individuals' names are Luis Humberto Morales, who was 21 years old, and Benjamin Samuel Mariano, who was also 21 years old. Now, this was discovered, their bodies were discovered on December 1st at approximately 4:30 in the morning. It's been in the paper, you know, when this happened. Our department initially got calls of shots fired in the area of 23rd and Canal, 23rd and K Street, in that area. Officers went over there during that time, checked the area, were unable to locate anything. A couple officers had actually contacted, you know, people walking in the alleyway, which was very good on their part, very alertness on their part, got their names, got statements from them and saying, oh yeah, and I think one of the individuals actually said, yeah, I heard them. I couldn't tell you if they were firecrackers or shots, but kind of directed them out of the area, saying it was more towards M Street. You know, now whether that was a plan by this individual, we're kind of still looking into that. Yeah. We don't think he has any direct involvement in the actual homicide, but most likely he was around that area when it happened.
And it's such a shock when you hear that, so sometimes maybe you sort of do get misled where it's coming from.
Yeah, and when the officers were in the area, they checked the area with their spotlights, and these both our victims were not just right out there in the open. They were on the sidewalk area by, I'll say, the Merced County School building there and the 400 block, West 23rd Street. They were more towards the canal side, but up in the grass area. So that was kind of the start of it, and then around 4:30, our department got another call of an argument in that immediate area, and that individual was in possession of a handgun. One of the officers who responded to the area parked his car probably about a block away. He was going to walk in on foot to try to catch these individuals, because most likely somebody's out there doing something wrong. Once they see the headlights or something, then they take off running. So this officer took the initiative to park about a block away, was going to approach by himself, on foot to the area, and he was the one who discovered the deceased bodies.
Yeah. Isn't that dangerous for the officer, though?
Yeah, it is, but we've all signed up for the job, and this is an officer who was very active out there on the street, and he was just doing his job. He was, his goal was to catch somebody with a gun and take a gun off the street, and unfortunately, he stumbles across the two deceased. So then that's where the investigation started from there, and then Detective Delman, who was assigned this case, him and Detective Russell, responded out there. Then our crime scene team, and they start, trying to put the pieces together. What we have learned so far is that our two victims, have been together most of the day. You mentioned that alcohol was involved in it. They had gone downtown to O'Reilly's bar, to the Partisan bar, and a new club called the Chandelier. They had just left the Chandelier Club. They heard of a kickback, which is a street term for a small gathering of individuals. So they went to this kickback, which was in the 400 block of West 23rd. The individuals who brought them over to this kickback, left there to go to another one, figured they would be all right. And now we have two deceased individuals and that's the information that we have to work on.
And that's very hard to solve, isn't it, when it's so little to go on?
Yeah, it's very complicated, because we know that individuals that we have talked to in the immediate area there know more information, but they're just not coming forth with it.
Now, what I need to ask is, are bars responsible for serving drinks to people that are over the limit? Can they get into trouble?
Yes, they can, but, here's, the misconception of that is when you say over the limit. Oh. Now, when you're driving a vehicle, over the limit is 0.08. That's only a couple of drinks, and most people can function, not function behind a car, but function normal walking, at that level of a 0.08. Where alcohol beverage control can step into is if they're serving an individual who's extremely intoxicated. Then they're supposed to take the responsibilities of cutting these individuals off. From all indications that we have from talking to the people there, that our two victims, even though they have been drinking, that they were not stumbling down drunk, or in other words, they could not care for themselves. In talking with the family members, they actually believe that, since they were drinking, that, they had left their vehicle in the downtown area and caught a ride with somebody else. So that's showing that they're being responsible.
Except that when you're drinking, you don't think rationally, do you? And you do silly things.
Right. And see, there's so much that could come into play here on this case is, did they get into some type of confrontation at one of the local bars they were at, and did they get followed over to this kickback? Was there a problem at this kickback here? You know, both these individuals have had contact and arrest from the Merced Police Department. Excuse me. We have them documented as gang members, you know, through our system. You know, it doesn't mean at the time that they were active. I don't recall seeing any real recent activity with them. So this is, you know, a gang-related case here. You know.
And of course, my thoughts always go to their parents or the people that love them in their lives.
Yeah, you know, it's very difficult, you know, because we always,
and so
you
young.
know, not in the initial phase of the investigation, because, you know, what people do not realize is when somebody is deceased, that body actually becomes property of the Merced County Coroner's Office. You know, so even though we might have the individual's names, we still have to wait till the proper authorities make the notification.
Oh, I see.
You know, to be positive, because that's the last thing we want to do. Is even though somebody has an individual has an ID with the name on it, you know, we don't want to go to that family and say, hey, your son or your loved one is deceased, and then come find out, you know, he just had his buddy's ID with him. His real name is this.
I'm smiling because, forgive me, in Debbie's case, they put her stepdaughter's photo in the paper as the victim, and she was a teenage girl.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why you know that process is like that. So
that wasn't Merced.
Yeah.
I just want to say that.
You know,
yeah.
If it's, you know, and we work closely with the coroner's office, so they had made notification when they felt the time was right. You know, within a couple hours to the family members. So and then we met with them because we tried to, you know, immediately run with the information we have. You know, and keep running with it, and then we'd sit down and talk to the family. You know, it's always going to be within a day or two. You know, we're not going to let it linger on.
But you are respectful of people's feelings, and that impresses me.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be. You know, like I said, it is tough. You know, sitting across. Unfortunately, you know, I think I've done it too many times where you sit across the table. You know, telling the family members, you know, that we're sorry for the loss of your loved one, you know.
I'm smiling because our family wasn't informed. It was on the radio.
Yeah, see, and that's one thing we don't want to happen.
No.
You know, if at all possible. You know, I think since I've been in investigations, whether working or supervising, I don't think that's ever happened to us, but you know, I can see maybe where, you know, a slip-up might occur like that.
And I honestly don't think people mean to be insensitive. I think it's just there's so much going on that sometimes this happens.
You know, no, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll say it again, it is hard, you know, to sit across from somebody, you know.
Of course it is.
Unfortunately, when we're sitting across from them, we don't have all the answers for them, you know, and we try to keep them informed as much as possible. Excuse me. We let them know that we will not provide them with all the information, you know, for the integrity of the case, and we explain to them, and you know, they understand, which is a little bit easier. You know, why we don't provide everything to them. You know, once an arrest has been made, then yes, we will sit down, so they're not surprised, you know, about anything that's going to come up through the court proceeding.
And as we have a few minutes left, do you think we could just basically do honor to those that have gone before? And
well,
so
you know,
people know that you don't forget. The police do not forget.
No, we do. You know, we don't use that term. We don't like to use that term closed cases or cold cases. Excuse me there. You know, but we do have a lot of cases, you know, still that are unsolved. Excuse me, even back to the 70s that we still look at periodically. Now, some of the names that pop up right off the head here, you'll have to help me on this, Jackie, but we have Luis Macias, who was killed over on Barney Street. Ann Hendricks, who was killed in the Central district of Merced, over, I want to say, around 3rd or 4th Avenue.
This is years ago.
Yes. Bob and Lena Chapman,
Okay.
who were on Bear Creek there.
The Rileys.
Michael Riley. That's, that is one that, I know we are close. We just need the right, to peaceful in the play. I think we're just about there, hopefully, on that one. But, there's, right off the top of the head, there's...
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the missing, like Vanessa Smith, still missing.
Yeah, that's sad. That, excuse me, that's the Sheriff's Department case.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what department you will... Yeah, and...
and we work together. Like I said, Detective Sergeant Jeff Coburn, that's what's nice about, when I first got into law enforcement, there was a little macho between the two departments. No. We work closely with their investigations unit. Jeff and I are always on the phone updating each other. It's when we have one, I call Jeff. Jeff, we're working on homicide when they have one, when they have time. When we have time, then we take a break and give them a call, because we're working together. Could help solve the case.
And I think that's wonderful. It's not, that's what it's about, isn't it? And then there's Pamela Pedro. There was the vigil for her recently. 30 years missing.
Oh, yes. That's the one in Atwater.
Her mother still has such a hard time, and rightly so. And there was one other one on my mind, and now it's gone. Excuse me.
B. Larson.
Oh,
Dr. Larson's mother killed on
just answered the door, this elderly lady, and was killed. They were all so senseless. Every murder to me is senseless.
It really is.
Isn't it?
Excuse me.
Oh, you've got allergies, haven't you?
I got a bug in my throat right now.
We don't have water?
No, I drank all my water since this is my second show today. Since you surprised me. No, I'm fine, Steve. I'll battle through it. Since
See,
Jacque,
what a good sport you
surprised me and said we're doing 2 shows.
I'm sorry I misunderstood you, I guess.
Oh, that's no
when
problem.
We were speaking.
Like I said, it's always a pleasure to come on here, because it's very helpful to to get these cases out in the public to keep people interested in.
Yes, and they have to remember, what if it was your family member?
Exactly.
If you know something, it's until you're there, you have no idea.
Unfortunately, like I said, I cannot speak for that, because I am myself, like you, I can't imagine, what you have gone through, since that day.
Okay. But you lost a fellow officer,
yes.
Stefan.
Yeah.
And you know how that is. You saw his wife, you saw his family.
Yeah, we still, we see Michelle at some functions like that. We try to keep in touch with her.
Well, it's like when, because I was a nurse 100 years ago, of course, not in the Crimea War, as you like to tell people. But the thing is, you cannot get too involved, otherwise you could not work properly.
Yeah, I think the hardest part with, with agency, say our size or the Sheriff's Department size, and I don't want to speak words for them, is, we don't have dedicated full-time detectives assigned to just homicides. Like I said, we have 3 in the Major Crimes Division right now. I mean, a homicide will take priority over any other case. Yeah. I can reassign the aggravated assaults to other detectives there, but, it would be nice. I don't know how about the burnout rate of something like this, but it'd be nice to just have a unit. That's all they do.
And also the Bravo case to the young man that was killed, and that's the Sheriff's Department, I believe.
Yeah, that one I can't.
His sister is Flora Bravo, and they're really involved. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's just too many. I can remember doing a show here a couple months ago where we named a whole bunch of them off. And right now, we have a retired detective that has been hired on a grant.
Oh, good.
To come back, and this is what he's actually been doing this now for, I want to say approximately 2 years. Where he's looking into our older cases resubmitting things to the labs, and it does work. You know, it hasn't been successful yet on a homicide case, but on a rape case, where we sent evidence and it did come back. You know, unfortunately, our victim wasn't always telling the truth when she made the report. You know, but DNA does work.
Oh, that's what solved Debbie's case, the DNA.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had the guys from DNA on, and they're great. And it's funny, because here it is, 11/5/11. Sergeant Skinner, Ismael Alcarez, age 18. Yeah.
Ismael Alcarez, right offhand, I think 18. That's the one over by 7-Eleven on Olive and Loughborough. Oh. I think he was a passenger in the car. I could be mistaken. Like I said, I don't have the notes in front of me.
I just have a few things. I'm just going back and back.
Well,
you realize how many years Steve and I have been doing this, and yes, he's pointing. I think, is it time to go home for dinner, Steve? But I want to thank you, Sergeant Skinner, because the next time we have a program will be in the new year.
2013.
Yeah. Oh my God, where's time gone?
That's right. It's supposed to end tomorrow, so.
But it's already tomorrow in some countries.
Yeah. Well, by the time people are here to the show, we made it through.
Oh, you are so smart.
Yeah, if they hear the show, then you know.
But
so I might have to go out and make sure I get everything done.
I told my
Stuff
husband
that I wanted to do in my lifetime before tomorrow.
Oh, I said to him, buy me a big diamond because we won't have to pay for it. Sorry. It's like, yeah, right, Jackie. But
yeah, you could do that. Take it back if it doesn't.
But I want to thank you, Sergeant, so much for everything you do and for the men under you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And I have to thank my little...
Oh, definitely.
Yes, and I need to thank my little buddy over there, Steve, who is such a big part of my life in this show.
And now we're expanding because of your show, too, because I was just contacted by one of Steve's co-workers over here on the Spanish station.
That's wonderful.
We might be doing some shows starting over there now. So.
And I have a friend that's sort of in the business, and she was talking about other places that we might be able to be heard. But the television show is seen all the way to the Oregon border. So
good. Outstanding.
But we're running out of money, so we won't be on much longer with that. But we've had a good run. We've had over 16 years for TV. Well, thank you for listening. If you do have information, make a family happy. Come forward, call the detective, and may you never walk in our footsteps.
Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.